in Korea in 1951. We went there and then started bombing in December, March the 15th, 1952, that the ship was hit by enemy mortar shell. That day we'd gone to John Quarters early in the morning, and we had cruised all the way up the North Korean coast, almost the Manchurian border. We had started back down the coast, just kind of cruising along, not firing at anything, when I was standing at my gun station on Mount 415, and one of my shipmates came over to me and said, "They're firing at us." And I said, "Well," he said, "I'll show you the wake in the water on the other side of the ship." So he and I walked in the passageway starting to the other side when the shell hit right near where I had been standing. So it was the good Lord that was looking after it.
We were maybe halfway to Edinburgh. We were sitting out on the fantail watching a movie, and all of a sudden the fantail really started to shake. And we're thinking to ourselves, what the heck is going on? The skipper of the ship came on the loudspeaker and said, "Be advised that President Eisenhower is going to be flying from the United States to Europe, and we are going to provide plane guard." That meant that the ships that we had were going to string out in a line across the Atlantic Ocean, so that if anything happened to Eisenhower's plane, there would be a ship within striking distance. And we had turned up the revs, and we were just about at peak. We were at flank or close to flank speed, and that's why the fantail was shaking.
I had a lot of good memories aboard the ship. It was a wonderful ship. I was on this gun mount 315 for quite a while. That day they come and told me to go to 313. 315 got hit. And right where I was usually standing is where the shell hit. So that, I thank the good Lord.
I was assigned to T Division. T Division were electronic technicians. I hadn't been to ET school yet, so I was a helper. I worked with a fellow by the name of Willie Detweiler, and he kind of tutored me and mentored me along the way, because when I came aboard the ship, it took me about 2 weeks to figure out where everything was. I tell people that a couple different times they moved the post office, because when I'd go to mail something, I'd be lost.
We had done a lot of exercises of firing at ships with a sleeve target. And we weren't doing too good at that, so the captain decided that we would try, or the gunnery commander decided they'd try drone, first one we ever tried. Everybody but the 40s and 20s were relieved of duty, so we could come out and watch all this. And the drone came around, nobody could hit it. Finally, somebody nicked it. And the officer who had charge of the drone lost control of it. The drone made a big turn and headed straight for the ship. And I was up on the searchlight and he was coming right at me, right straight at me. Me and another buddy sitting there. Well, we ducked like that, so he missed us. And he had an angle, so he was headed for the third turret. And they had about 25, 30 guys on top of the turret watching all this action. And it hit right straight down, and it hit right in the corner. Jumped like that. There was a Marine strapped to one of the 20 millimeters, and he looked up and saw that thing coming at him. You never saw anybody get out that 20 millimeter gun. Nobody was hurt except the guy who jumped off of the third turret and broke his leg.
We were on the way down to Guantanamo Bay, and we were having gunnery practice with the 5-inch and the 16-inch. I happen to be biased toward the 16-inch because they're bigger, but the 16-inch guns were fantastically accurate. They clobbered the sled that was being pulled by a small boat when they fired on it. The 5-inch guns didn't do quite as well. There was a plane pulling a sock way behind it. They were supposed to fire at the sock. Something went astray somewhere, and the firing started to climb up the cable leading to the plane. You had a very excited pilot, and they had some very disturbed gunners.
I want to tell about the time I entertained the guys on 02 and 03 levels above the fantail. After breakfast one day when we were parked out at sea, some of us came up to enjoy the nice weather, and about a half a dozen of us were hung out by the railing there looking out at the sea. Just all you could see was water in all directions. And directly in front of us was this big wave. We were just admiring that son of a gun. Boy, is that big. And next thing you know, it's rolling toward us. And I never had this experience before, so here it comes and it's going to hit us. And I did the dumbest thing you could do. I turned around and ran the other way as fast as I could. The wave was faster. It caught me behind the knees, took me down on the deck, and I'm flailing around trying to grab on the hardware. And the guys up there are watching this. That's great. They were having a great time with it. Finally, I came to a stop, and I was all bruised and soaked with salt water and so on. And I think they even cheered when I got up. But I learned to climb up instead of cross when waves come after you. So that's my little story.
First morning I'm up and I'm walking back to the fantail. There's a guy standing there watching the waves and stuff and turbulent from the screws. And I said, "Good morning." He says, "No, it ain't." I said, "Oh, so what are you here doing here?" He says, "I'm a writer." I says, "Local newspaper?" He said, "I write books." He said, "Oh, anything I recognize?" He said, "How about Hunt for Red Clover?" I says, "You Tom Clancy? Son of a pup, I'm glad to meet you." Shook his hand, told him who I was, and I told him he was my second favorite author. That's when he said back, "Well, Bubba." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, who's your favorite author?" I said, "Alistair MacLean." I said, "Oh, mine too." And he agreed. He said, "Oh, he's just a fantastic guy."
I was 17 years old on the 10th of January, and on the 7th of February I was in the Navy. And my goal was to get away from Wisconsin, where I grew up, and I got out of boot camp and they sent me to this ship. Little did I think about the irony of it at the time, but in years to come, I was so grateful to have served on my state's namesake ship. It was quite a pleasure.
We pulled into Edinburgh, Scotland, and because of the beautiful Firth of Forth Bridge, we had to anchor outside. The destroyers could go under and they could pull up to pier side. We couldn't do it. That meant we had to take Liberty boats. That meant we were slow getting to the bars, and there was one bar in Edinburgh that served cold beer. And I can tell you, every dadgum sailor on the Wisconsin headed for that bar, because you just don't find cold beer in England.